Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be sex, pursuing, and being used. Well, I've got two emails that I'm going to go through with you today. The first one is from a woman who met a guy who is going to win my Tool of the Week award. And what I love about this email is this guy is trying to portray himself as like Mr. Prince Charming, and literally soon as he hooks up and gets laid, what does he do? He fucking disappears and has nothing but excuses, and he's busy and this and that. And so I'm going to point out some things to her, some red flags that she should have noticed right away, that this guy was more of a manipulator than he was somebody that she could potentially have a relationship with. And women like sex just as much as us guys do, but they want to avoid guys that do exactly what this guy did, which is like literally disappear as soon as he gets laid. Because then all you end up doing is making her pissed off, feel used, and you become one of those guys that women talked about to all of their female friends. And the second email is from a guy who has just started hooking up with his ex-girlfriend again. And so we're going to talk about, because both these emails, like the woman brings up about pursuing, how much a woman should pursue, how much the guy should pursue. And the second guy's email, even though he's hooking up with his ex-girlfriend again, there's some things that I want to talk about or point out to him about how he's going about pursuing her and how much he should do that. Because a lot of guys, when they start getting an ex back, she starts reaching out after she dumped him and broke up with them. And they think, oh great, she called me, she's reaching out, now I can go right back to chasing and pursuing again. And they go right back to over-pursuing, and they get blown off. There's a real delicate balance, especially when you're trying to re-attract somebody, as to how much pursuing you actually need to do. And in those particular cases, when you're trying to re-attract somebody, going to the once-a-week rule and calling them once a week and asking them out a date can actually blow up in your face. And I'll explain that once I get to his email. But before we get into it, I've got a quote that I wrote on this topic I'm going to share with you, and we're going to jump right into the woman's email. And the quote says, "Women like sex just as much as men do. However, they want to avoid at all costs the feeling of being used and manipulated for sex when men disappear immediately after taking them to bed for the first time. Men should never lie, deceive, manipulate, or give false promises of a future relationship in a selfish quest to simply get laid or have a good seduction story to brag to their guy friends about. Women want to be in a love story. They want to be seen, heard, appreciated, and feel beautiful for who they are." So be nice to the ladies. Even though a lot of times if you give a woman an inch, she's going to take a mile. The idea, like I talk about in my book, is to be a charming James Bond, and 90% of the time, and 10% of the time, treat her like the bratty little sister. Don't be a fucking doormat, but also don't become a fucking asshole who just uses and abuses women either, because that will give you a shitty reputation. And in the long run, all you'll end up doing is cock-blocking yourself and screwing a really good opportunity up down the road, because other women have found out about you and what you're really like. So let's jump right into the woman's email. She says, "Dear Corey, I wondered what one is supposed to do anymore. I'm a woman, and of course I see the other side too. I live in a small European country, so maybe it's a cultural thing, but honestly, I got the impression that guys really need to chase longer in order to really appreciate someone." Well, that really is societal conditioning. That's what you see in a lot of movies. The guy is supposed to be the pursuer. He's supposed to do all the work. She says, "I started dating a guy at the beginning of February, and I try to be as fair as I can with people's emotions, and if I'm not into a guy, I'll tell him right away, and if I am, I put half the effort." In other words, it's a 50-50 thing. It's a mental construct. How about, what that tells me is that you're doing what you think you should do and not what feels right. Because that's really the core issue of what men and women both need to do, is to trust what feels right. Not out of a place of fear or need or possessing the other person, but just pick up the phone and call them because you want to talk to them, because you miss them, you were thinking about them, you'd like to get together. Not because you need them or you want them to complete your life, just because you had a hell of a great time the last time you saw them and you'd like to get together again. She continues on, if he sends a good morning message, I send the one the next morning. That's like being a robot. It's like trying to keep everything 50-50. That tells me you're not acting natural. You're not following what feels right for you. You're doing what you think you should be doing. And that is going to create problems. That's manipulation. But in light of what happened, I'm wondering if in fact I should have not left it all up to him. We went on 7 dates, not like the 3 you mentioned that a woman waits. In other words, most women sleep with a guy in the first 1 to 3 dates. She says, I really liked this guy and felt amazing with him. I spent the night at his place on Valentine's Day, and I kid you not, I have never seen a more freaked out man the next morning in my life. He was totally different. He skipped breakfast and didn't know how to get me out of there fast enough. Well, obviously, that's not a good sign. And that tells me maybe the guy's commitment phobic. Maybe the guy was really just blowing a bunch of sunshine up your ass and telling you what you wanted to hear so he could get laid. And now that he got what he wanted, you're out of there. This is what causes women to become jaded. This is what screws women up for the next guy that comes along who's actually a good guy. She says, this was the man who sent flowers to my office on Valentine's Day. You're not his girlfriend, and yet he's buying you flowers on Valentine's Day. That is a bribe for sex. Those are the kind of things that most women, when a guy sends them flowers after only a few dates, they start to think, starts talking about his feelings, start talking about a relationship. It's more out of manipulation, not so much a gift of his heart. And so like when I go through the whole email, you're going to see little things, little threads here. She says, needless to say, I've never felt more horrible in my life. That's it right there. That's a big issue that a lot of guys are working against, in essence, when they're trying to seduce a woman. Because she wants to make sure that you care about her, that you're not going to just turn around and be the tool of the week like this jerk-off did. Where as soon as you get laid, you get your noodle wet, you're out the fucking door. She says, I tried to joke a bit and pretend I didn't notice, but everything changed. We swapped our usual morning texts, but he would not invite me out the following week. He went to another country, and when he came back, he made it very clear he only had 1 day at his disposal to meet that week. This coming from the man who the week before would pout that I am not able to see him every day, she puts in bold letters, and would flood me with texts during my evenings with my friends, trying to keep me focused solely on him and glued to my phone. That is a hallmark of a needy, insecure, manipulative dude. And that should have been a red flag. Most women, when guys do that bullshit, they realize that that guy is fucked up. So part of the problem is you continued to be involved with a guy that you really should have blown off because he was fucked up. In other words, you were projecting your fantasy onto him and assuming that he felt the same way. You bought his act of manipulation. Again, this is one of the reasons why most women run from guys that act this way. Because it's not normal. If the guy had his shit together, if he was confident, if he had a lot of success, if he had plenty of options with women, he wouldn't have had time to be blowing your phone up like that. That right then and there should have scared you away to have nothing to do with him. He is a manipulative person. She says, I told him I had plans with friends, but he's welcome to join that day. The evening went okay. He seemed affectionate and open to talk. After the evening, I asked him what his schedule looks like the following week. I was looking forward to seeing him, and having waited 10 days to see him again after we had sex for the first time, I was indeed curious if this is going to continue. He announced that he is very busy, in bold letters she puts, and also away in the weekends for the following week. So this just tells me he got what he wanted, and now he really doesn't have much use for you. In other words, maybe you're kind of on the back burner. When you get a man or woman, if you're watching this, whether you're a guy or a girl, when you call the other person and they're not like, fuck yeah, hell yeah, let's get together. They're like, or I'm kind of busy. You don't call them or text them anymore after that. I don't care how lovey-dovey they were or how great the sex was the night before. When somebody treats you like a second-class citizen, they can kiss your fucking ass. I mean, seriously. That's part of loving yourself and standing up for yourself and saying, you know what, this person's taking me for granted. I'm not going to invest any more energy in it because I don't like the effort that's coming back. And then the quickest way to get somebody else's attention is to remove yours, and that's what you should have done when you spotted this behavior. When you left that day, I wouldn't have fucking called that guy. No fucking way. Him making you feel like that, I would have walked out of there expecting you'd never hear from him again. Because now what you realize is what he was really all about. He's just a manipulator. And not a very good one at that. It just sounds like because you were digging this guy, maybe you were a little bit lonely, you gave him more credit, but at the end of the day, those red flags are pretty obvious. She said, this, of course, made me feel just wonderful, and yes, unsure of myself and this man's feelings. I said, sad that it looks like it's getting to be very hard to see each other. He said nothing. I left. I wasn't upset, but sad, and maybe I overreacted, but of course, the last thing you want to feel as a woman is not attractive in your man's eyes after sharing yourself so intimately with him. Well, he wasn't really your man yet. You weren't in a relationship. You'd been on 7 dates. That tells me what you were thinking. Maybe you were saying some things when you were with him as well. Maybe after you slept together, or maybe you were started talking about your future a lot. Maybe that freaked him out. It's possible as well. She says, I stopped the initiation of messages, but I responded to his morning texts. I went away for 4 days, which I did not write or heard from him. When I came back, I had to make an appointment with him just to call, and I said I'd like to see him. He said he's very busy, but for Thursday would work for him. Now we're meeting on his terms and very much looking like I had to chase him just to meet that week. No self-respecting human being, man or woman, should be doing what you're doing right now. Because now you're trying to salvage things, and now you're trying to force yourself back into his life, force yourself to get him back to the way he was, when you should be just doing nothing. But I thought that talking like adults about what is going on would be a good start. He sent me a text on Thursday that he can't meet me because he has so many feelings he has to sort out due to his last breakup, which is about 8 months before. That's typically one of the things that women say to guys all the time. And that he needs space to figure things out the following 3 months until his departure to California. I said, I accept that I'm willing to move on with my life, but I want to develop myself as a person, and if this is about me, I would like to know the truth, no matter how hard it sounds. He said he would write me an email. She says, an email? The man I had sex with can't meet me face to face and be honest with me? Nope. He's a little bitch. He's the tool of the week. So I suggest meeting up, and he said he would, but he had to wait for the following week. And she says, what? When did the man who would insist to meet every day and get the impression that I am chasing after him? So I said he can take as much time as he needs and call me when he wants to hear each other. The following week, he sent me a text that he is sick. He might as well have told me that his dog ate his homework. I did not reply anymore, and I recognize bullshit when I see it, so I figured that in some way I must have over-pursued and made him very unsure of how attracted I was to him as I was making half the effort, and this in return made me look like a low-value woman in his eyes. And maybe meeting him halfway is over-pursuing, so of course for me and a lot of women out there, it truly seems that if guys don't feel like they have to work to get you, they just don't value you long-term. That's definitely a true statement. However, there's some major red flags that you ignored. His incessant texting and over-pursuing, you're like the 1% of the women that would put up with that crap. Most women be like, this guy's fucked up, and they would never return his text. They would always be busy when he's insisting to see them, and eventually the guy gets the hint and goes away. So that's part of your problem there. It's like you see the sign that says bridge out ahead, and you're like, and what do? You step on the gas. Ah, maybe I'll jump this thing. Didn't work. She says, I don't really know what to make of this story, but the conclusion I took is to keep my hands off the phone and let them wait a little longer next time, and maybe this is what the women should do. Well, like I said, I pointed out, obviously, some glaring things that I see here, but, you know, the guy definitely sounds a little fucked up. He sounds like the typical guy that comes to me, but it also sounds like you may have been a little insecure yourself and come off as a little needy. Maybe you started talking about a future together, but most women would have never gone out with a guy once he starts blowing their phone up like that and getting all pouty and acting like a little girl when you're busy and you got other shit going on besides him. So I would say in the future, next time a guy acts that way, run like hell. Give him the let's just be friends speech, and don't fucking waste your time with people like this, because this is what happens. And when you want to call a guy, fucking call a guy. Don't say, okay, well, it's 50-50, that's being a robot. Because a guy that's got his shit together, has got confidence, he's going to realize that you're being robotic and you're not following your heart, you're holding back, and he's just going to move on. So let's move on to the second email. This one's from a guy. He says, hey, coach, how are you? Fucking awesome, right? LOL. You bet your fucking ass, dude. Life is fucking good, man. He says, I wanted to write and say thank you for your help. I just got through reading your book for the first time and have started my second reading. I watched at least 50 of your videos and continue watching more of them each day. Well, there's almost 1,500 of them now at this point. I know. I get emails from guys all the time going, I watched all your videos. Like when I'm talking to people on phone sessions, I'm like, all 1,500 of them? Like, there's 1,500? Like, yep. He says, I'm 50 years old and I've been in a relationship with an absolute 10 who's now 46 for 9 years. 7 of them were steady, 2 of them were on and off. She has natural game, and like you say, 10s are always being approached and being hit on. A couple of months ago, we decided to move and go our separate ways. After doing so, we would talk or text every now and then. We even got together a couple times. A month ago, we both just stopped contacting each other. I was a bit depressed, and as always, I hoped we could get things right. In other words, what this tells me that she ditched you and friend-zoned you. Then I did some internet surfing and came across your work. I immersed myself into studying your teachings. It's funny that just by reading your book and watching your videos, I started to feel better about myself. Well, that's what truth does for you. Pulls your head out of your ass, pulls it out of the clouds, and you can see the world for the way it really is. 2 weeks ago, something interesting happened. I fell asleep in my car after work, and my cell phone rang and woke me up. My ex called and asked, hey there, what are you doing? I replied, well, I was going to go into Walmart, and she said, hey, I'm in Robinson, which is halfway between us, and I was thinking of coming down for a couple of hours. I replied, you're coming down? Sure, come on down, I'll see you in a little bit. Huh. It's amazing what happens when you walk and you never look back. This is something that the woman in the previous email should have done as soon as that guy made her feel like shit. She was like, if he wants to see me again, he can fucking call me. That should have been her attitude. But at that point, she obviously, because she slept with him, she was already emotionally wrapped up and wasn't really able to see clearly. It happens to all of us. When you really care about somebody and your emotions get involved, it's like all logic, all reason, all the red flags, like, I want to be different. I'm fine. Then you fucking smash right into the wall. So I race home and tidy up a bit, and she knocks on the door, and I let her in, and I kiss her hello. Nice. Because a lot of guys are like, should I kiss her when she comes over and I haven't seen her in a month? Fuck yeah, that's your girl. Kiss her on the lips. You've been all up and in that shit for fucking 9 years off and on, dude. Hell yeah. She was dressed casual in nice sweats and a sexy top. Sounds like she had something planned. I'm going nuts inside, but I remain reserved. I had to take a shower, so I did. Afterwards, we sat in the living room, and she said, I just wanted to visit for a couple hours. That's all. Yeah, that's all my fucking ass. We talked for about 10 minutes, and I started rubbing her feet and legs as we talked. I then went for the kiss. She was receptive, then said, I don't want to start anything because we won't talk for forever. I'm thinking, You came to visit and you're looking hot. I'm going to try and fuck you. And yes, us guys are pretty much always thinking about sex. That's just the way we are. Our conversation was light and fun. You know what? So do most women. But they won't admit that to you until you get to really know them. We did not talk about the relationship. Nice. Been paying attention to what I teach. Hang out, have fun, hook up. That's a simple plan for the average guy to follow. Anything else, they just end up causing a train wreck. He says, I'm a full-time casino dealer, and I'm also a cake designer, which is my true passion. That's awesome. Do more of that. Do more of the things you really fucking love in life. So we're talking about some upcoming cake projects, and the same-sex girl wedding came up. Long story short, she knows these girls, and they were clients in her hair salon. I suggested that she be my date for the wedding, and she said if she can arrange her work schedule, she would go. Well, I wouldn't be planning dates in the future. I would just be seeing how this evening goes. Again, you're going back into relationship territory. I got to possess her. Things escalated by my going for a passionate kiss and then lying on top of her. She said, let's go to the bedroom. Huh. What a coinky-dink. We entered, and I embraced her and kissed her with my hands pressing her hot ass. She says, are we having sex? Translation, you can do whatever you want to me, big boy. If you like, I replied, I'm thinking you didn't come over here to check out my nightstands, did you? So we had passionate sex. It was hot. We laid around for a bit, then she had to go because her daughter is going to be home. Normally I would ask her out for the weekend, but I didn't. She texted me that she got home okay, and I replied, I had a good time and it was nice seeing her again. I was going to wait until she reached out again, but then next Tuesday I texted, let me know when you're free to get together again. What I would have said was when she left, hey, call me later. And wait to hear from her. Remember, she ditched you. She blew you off. She called you. She reached out to you this time when she was really thinking about you. This is somebody you're trying to reattract. So there's really, you don't need to stick with the, like I tell, when you're first dating a woman, you start dating her, yeah, I talk about in the book, is every 7 days, once a week in essence, you make a date. But when you're trying to reattract somebody who blew you off, think about it. She's already coming to you. She called you, hey, I'm going to be in town. What'd you do? You create an opportunity for sex to happen. It worked then. Why wouldn't it work again in the future? Remember, she's the one that blew you off. But sounds like your impatience got the best of you. And she replied, I may be free Thursday if you don't have any cakes. I replied, no cakes, Thursday works. She replied with a time and that she would be there. Now the reason I say this, why there's no reason to really reach out to her, is that I learned this the hard way. I had a girl that I'd screwed up with. I actually wrote about her in my book. And I started doing exactly this because you think, hey, she's calling me again. Great, I'll go back to the once a week. And I started doing that, and I got about 2-3 weeks in. And then the next time when I called, it was, hey, let's get together. When are you free? Oh, I don't know. My schedule's kind of busy. And she started taking me for granted. It wasn't until I just said, fuck it, I'm not ever calling or texting this girl ever again. If she wants to see me, she'll call me. And I did that. And I learned my lesson the hard way. And what happened as the weeks went by, she started calling me and texting me more and more. And I started using those as an opportunity just to set the next date. And it worked a lot better that way because even when I was sticking with the once a week, it got 2-3 weeks in and then it was just kind of like, eh. And what you want is you want those feelings to grow. Remember, she's the one that ditched you. Why should you put the extra effort in when she blew you off? That's the one critique I would have her. Then she texts, I may be free tonight. And I said, either day works for me, let me know. So she comes down that night. We hang out and hook up. She stayed a couple hours later after sex, naked in my bed, and I massaged her. We had fun. Good for you, dude. I followed her to the gas station, put some gas in her car, and bought her some chips. Is this a broke-ass chick? She can't afford to put gas in her car? She needs a little bit of food? A little Scooby snack? Come on, man. It's a 40-mile drive between us. She fed me some chips as the gas pumped. She seemed happy. And since then, we have talked, texted briefly every couple of days. In other words, you're going right back to your old texting and calling and pursuing, and you're literally going to turn her off and she's going to get bored and suddenly be so busy that she can't see you anymore. Normally, I would call daily and pursue her hard, so that's what you've always done in the past. So those are the natural tendencies that you've got to try to overcome. He says, but I want to see what happens if I lay back and don't contact her until she contacts me first. We shall see. Now you're talking. Remember, she ditched you, dude. What you want is her to fall hopelessly head over heels in love with you. When a woman's head over heels in love with you, she'll be all up in your shit. And she'll be with you all the fucking time. She'll want all of your attention. She texted that she would let me know about the wedding in a couple of days. I'm not going to push it, but I wanted to say thanks for your help. I got to have sex, hot sex with my banging hot ex. Well, good for you, dude. Like I said, I would do exactly what you mentioned here at the end of your email. Just let her contact you from now. Remember, this is a girl that ditched you and blew you off. She's already proven to you that she'll reach out to you, and so there's really no reason. You want her to fall back in love with you to the point where she's with you all of the time. You gotta let her come to you. In the meantime, you should be rereading my book and learning that stuff and mastering it so you can be prepared. So if you'd like to get my help personally, the quickest way is to book a paid phone, Skype, or email coaching session with yours truly. You can choose any of those options by going to my website, clicking the products tab at the top of your screen, and just follow the instructions. And I will talk to you soon.